when Donald Trump slapped a 19% tariff on Pakistan, 50% on India, and around 20% on Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. Many in Pakistan felt we'd scored a huge diplomatic victory. After all, in South Asia, we now had the lowest tariff rates. Some even imagined this was a long-term golden ticket into the American market, but the reality is much less glamorous. This so-called concession only really matters if our biggest competitors for textiles were also just in South Asia. The truth is far more complicated. Last year alone, 92% of Pakistan's exports to the US were textiles. Shirts, men's suits, towels. After that came rice, plastics, and fruits. But here, as to catch. These textile goods don't fall under America SGSP scheme. That S, the generalized system of preferences given to certain developing countries to boost their exports with low or zero tariffs. Yes, Pakistan does have GSP status, but the products that benefit from it barely touch our main export industry. Less than 5% of our textile products are covered. The other 90% face the full 19% tariff. Now, think about what that means. Imagine a Pakistani towel or a suit that once sold for $100 in the US now costs $119 after tariffs. Meanwhile, the same kind of product from Mexico under a free trade agreement could land in the US for $115 or less. Yesterday, we were cheaper. Today, they are. And unlike us, countries like Mexico, Canada, and Australia have zero or near zero tariffs on these goods thanks to trade deals. Some might think Canada's 35% or Mexico's 20% tariffs are the same as ours. They're not! Those figures are on products outside the trade agreements. On the goods covered, they have the clear edge. So while we have the lowest tariff in South Asia, we're still at a disadvantage compared to countries with free trade access. The numbers speak loudly. America is 17% of our total exports, worth over $5 billion a year. We trade a total of about $7 billion with the US. But a big slice of what we buy from them is cotton, much of it from Texas. We spin that cotton into cloth and send it back. That's a cycle we've relied on for decades. But instead of relying on just textiles, this situation could be our wake-up call to diversify. We could target products where Trump has hit other countries with heavy tariffs, like India, Vietnam, or China, and capture their market share. If our industrialists and government work together, we could grab a chunk of this opportunity before it disappears. But will low tariffs alone make us winners long term? The honest answer: no. History shows tariff wars rarely work. They're often driven more by politics, ego, and grandstanding than sound economics. In Trump's case, it's about being the center of attention, a personality trait that shapes his policy decisions. Tariffs have been tried before in America and globally. Each time, they've failed to produce lasting benefits. The world adjusts, markets rebalance, and trade flows resume based on quality, cost, and demand. Trump's reciprocal tariff idea sounds fair at first, matching other countries' tariffs with our own, but it ignores how global production works today. A single product like a BMW car might have its software from California, chips from Taiwan, aluminum from Canada, seats from South Africa, and tires from Thailand. Slapping a tariff on Germany? Doesn't just hurt Germany? It hits all the countries supplying parts, including America's own industries. Trump's nostalgia for the old industrial America of smoking chimneys ignores that the world has moved on. A basic t-shirt today may cross 3 continents before it reaches a US store. And US companies still profit hugely from this global system, buying shirts for $1.50 and selling them for $1.06. Tariffs disrupt that, hurting both foreign suppliers and US farmers, exporters, and consumers. We've already seen this with US cotton exports to China, which collapsed by 82% after tariffs. A huge blow to American farmers. For the US to win such a tariff war, it would need a massive industrial base rivaling all of Asia combined, which is impossible without massive immigration. Something Trump opposes. That's why, even with this temporary advantage, Pakistan shouldn't fool itself into thinking it's now America's favorite over India. It's just a short-term opening, born of Trump's anger with India over high tariffs and other political frustrations. If you're finding this breakdown panning, imagine what we could uncover if you joined our journey full-time. Hit that subscribe button now so you never miss the truth behind the headlines. Because next time, it might not just be about tariffs, it could be about the very survival of our economy. In reality, India's weight in the global market is still heavier than Pakistan's. To truly compete, we need to expand the range and sophistication of our exports, not just rely on textiles. This is the only way to turn a temporary political quirk into lasting economic strength. Trump's praise for Pakistan is more about his current mood swings than a fundamental shift in policy. India, meanwhile, is dealing with its own overblown self. Years of BJP rhetoric have convinced many young Indians that their country is a Vishwa Guru, a world teacher and superpower. But recent events have pricked that balloon. Despite being first in population, fourth in GDP size, and seventh in land area, India's international influence still lags behind much smaller nations. Look at Russia! With just 144 million people, barely a tenth of India's population, and a GDP half its size. Russia still ranks as one of the most powerful states in the world, second only to the US and China in global influence. The reasons are clear. Russia has a permanent UN Security Council seat with veto power, over 5,000 nuclear warheads, and military reach into every major capital. Its geography lets it influence both Asia and Europe. It's one of the largest oil and gas producers, and it carries the legacy of the Soviet Union's global reach. It's also the largest country on Earth. 5 Indias could fit inside it, but perhaps its most important advantage is something often overlooked: the willingness to use its power. Russia acts decisively, sometimes aggressively, without the hesitation India often shows. Its military industry is advanced enough to produce 5th-generation fighter jets on its own, while India still struggles to fully produce its 4th-generation Tigris fighter without foreign engines, despite starting the project over 4 decades ago. This combination of political weight, military strength, and resource control is what makes a real Vishwaguru, not just economic size or population. That's why, after all the noise, real global powers give orders, and the pretenders listen. Even the US faces tough negotiations with true heavyweights like China and Russia. Pakistan, for its part, knows its size and limits. After years of unrealistic expectations, a growing segment of the public has become more pragmatic. We don't expect oversized roles on the world stage. Instead, we take what opportunities we can, like this tariff window, and treat them as bonuses. But we also know bonuses don't last forever. If we don't use them to build real capabilities, we'll all be back to square one when political winds change and India regains priority in US and Western eyes. That's the reality behind the headlines. Stripped of the false comfort of political applause. The sooner we face it, the sooner we can plan for genuine, long-term growth. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Pakistan can turn this temporary break into a lasting advantage? Or will it vanish as quickly as it came? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because the debate we start here could shape how we see our country's future.